guys, this is Stacy Chacon. I am coming to you with this video a little different than my other tutorials. I've decided to just go unscripted with this one. So I recently polled my Instagram followers to choose a photo for me to paint next, and this Tybee sunrise is where we landed. So I'm just gonna turn the camera on and kind of walk you through my process in real time as if I am painting live for you. I'll walk you through how I kind of dissect the photo to make a game plan, and then we'll just jump right into painting. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I am going to attempt to record this. I've been thinking about this painting. This was kind of a viewer's choice painting. So this is from a reference photo I took in Tybee Island, Georgia, one of our favorite beaches to visit. This was a sunrise. So if I break down this photo into steps of the painting, okay, we have, let's remove a layer. Let's take off this layer of clouds here. Okay, so if we were to take off these clouds, we have this blue to orange gradient from top to horizon line. We'll keep a white space for sun, keep this kind of peachy up top, but otherwise it's generally a blue to orangey, purpley gradient. We have a horizon line, and then we have this thinner section of ocean, and then we have this watery shoreline where the waters come up very smooth, and we have the sun reflected into that shoreline. So let's say 3 or 4 steps. Step 1, the sky, layer 1, keeping that white space. Step 2 will be this horizon line and ocean. Step 3, the shoreline with the reflections. And then we'll go back in. Step 4, we'll build up these clouds that are more kind of in the foreground. You know, they're kind of hovering above the ocean. And some of that reflection and texture. Okay, so let's get set up and let's just give it a go, see how it goes. Okay, so I've got myself kind of set up here. I'm gonna tape this off real quick just to give me a nice clean border. And I'm gonna be working with a lot of water, and I don't really want this to go to the pages underneath. So just gonna tape it off real quick. This is just a plain old masking tape. It's not anything fancy. I've actually had some trouble with it on some of my other paintings that the paint will get up under it. So, you know, use what you got. And I'm actually not gonna tape off the horizon line. You can do that if you trust your tape. I don't trust this tape. I'm scared that when I pull it off, it will actually pull the paper. This paper I'm using, this is a Strathmore watercolor paper. It's cold pressed, so we won't get kind of the same texture that we get from hot press paper. But it is watercolor paper, so you do want to make sure you're using watercolor paper when you're doing these, especially water heavy watercolor paintings. All right, I've got my Winsor Newton watercolor paints over here. My trusty palette here. It's messy. I've not used it in a while, but a couple brushes. I've got a flat brush, a round 4, a round 6 I'll use mostly. So we want to start wet and wet, which means we're going to wet the paper get it really saturated. I'm gonna bring my water line. I'll go ahead and pencil in a horizon line for us. Let me find a straight edge. I'll just use the edge of my paper here. I'll bring my horizon line. It's about halfway in my photo, so I'm gonna make it about halfway here too. Hopefully I'm not on a diagonal. All right, sky, ocean. Okay, put that back over there. All right, so I'm just gonna use a flat brush to wet my paper to start with. Mostly clean water. I did just rinse that blue in it, so it's got a little bit of a blue tint. All right, we want it pretty wet. If you've got a mop brush, that'll go a little faster than what I'm doing here. Main thing, just make sure you want it really wet. And really it's okay if this does bleed down into the water, because for this particular painting, the water is so much darker than the sky that, you know, we can just paint over it. But I think that's pretty good and wet. I'm gonna tilt my paper so I can see the sheen, and I can. I'll just keep going with the flat brush because I think that'll cover more ground for us. All right, we've got this mix of blue. Can you see my palette? Let me rearrange a little bit over here. You won't be able to see my water, but you don't need to see my water. Okay, this blue for the sky, I'm just gonna go ahead and come in, dripping in blue. You can tilt your paper some. Let that water wash down for you. Go ahead and bring that most of the way down, all the way across. Okay. Let's go into this. All right, yellow and blue makes green, so don't want to do that. Come back up here with my orange. So we have a pretty intense orange right on that horizon line. And then I'm gonna pick up some of that yellow, cad yellow. Pull that across. Don't want green, so I'm gonna come in, pick up some of that where the blue and yellow are touching, just so it doesn't mingle too much, but then come back in with the blue. I want to darken up the top of my sky a little bit. In the reference photo, I see there's a light spot right here in the center. Actually, this is going a little too turquoise. Let's pull some more of that richer blue in there. Let's try this blue. There we go. Okay. All right, and I want to get a little bit of that red right around the sun. Now, I didn't leave a white spot for the sun. I'll show you in a second what we're going to do for that. I just want to get these first colors down real quick. Our sun's actually going to be right around this red. Okay, I'm going to dab that off so we can smooth it out some. Okay, so now I'm going to wet my round 6, wet it with water. So we have a thirsty brush. I'm just going to come right in this wet part and soak up where we want that sun to be. So a lot of times we say, oh, it's watercolor, you can't undo it. There's no erase button. That's true, but you can lift it. Okay. And so because we put that rich red right around the sun, it really helps that white part to stand out. And I'm just dropping in just with the corner of my flat brush. Just dropping some of that red back in. Okay. Now in the reference photo, the yellow doesn't come all the way over here. I want to build up that blue a little more. So what we know with color theory is blue and yellow makes green. Blue and orange are complementary colors. So when we mix blue and orange, we will get a neutral color, a gray tone, all right? So if I slide over here on this side of the painting, okay? Let's do a quick little color theory lesson for you. I won't charge you extra for this one, okay? All right, we have blue. I want to do this quickly because I don't want my painting to dry, but blue and orange. Didn't clean my brush very well. Orange, okay? If we take a little bit, or a lot of orange, and we mix in just a little bit of blue, we'll get like this brown, greenish brown. But if we go more blue, okay, more blue, and a little bit of the orange, okay, we'll get more of that kind of smoky gray. And if I pull in just a little bit of that cad red, we'll get almost a purpley gray, all right? And then just pull back in the blue to pull it back. So that's how we're gonna get some of those shadowy clouds. All right, I wanna go back to my flat brush just because it's working for me. All right, so I want to get some of that purpley, orangey, blue mixture to bleed in over here. So I'm gonna come in, we didn't dry too much, okay, good. With the blue, pick up just a little bit of that orange, and a little bit of that red. We're gonna fade into that. I actually want that to be a little more purple, so I'm going to mix some of that over here. I want a little more red than I want it, but we're gonna go with it. And then same thing on this side. Okay. While this is still damp, we can start building in, get a hard line there. We can start building in some of the clouds. So we're not gonna get the big puffy clouds right now. And I'm using, oh, just dropped my brush down in the water jug. Get some of these white, oops, white streaks in here. Okay, some of these wispy clouds. And I know there was some up here as well. So I'm just gonna with clean water to get these kind of white sections pulled out. Got some those wispy morning clouds back here. Okay. And I also see from my reference photo, we've got a little more red over on this side too. So I'm going to pull some of that, dab some of that in. We're still a little damp. Soften that a little bit. Okay. All right, we'll come back to that to build that up more. All right, that's step one. Okay, sky. And we're gonna come down, we'll have our ocean-ish here. And I'm just gonna draw a little bit of a line where I want kind of my shore break. I want the sun to reflect here. So a lot of that same red and yellow will be around the sun here. We'll pull that down. But first, let's get in this dark blue for the ocean. So that is a really rich blue. So I'm gonna pull some of this Prussian. Before I do that, I wanna make sure this is really dry. So I am going to hit that with the hair dryer to make sure we get that section really dry. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. So I'm gonna push that tape back down. Sometimes when you use a heat dryer, it can make the glue on your tape lift, which is great when you're ready to take it off, but not when you're in the middle of a project. Okay, so if we didn't make sure this was really dry, then when this wet paint touches it at that horizon line, it would soak that darker blue up into the sky, and we don't really want to go for that. So here we go. Dark blue, laying it in. Where do I want to start? Let's start back here. Let's just go for it. Okay, so with my flat brush, I'm just kind of making, hold it kind of flat. Flat brush, hold it flat. I'm pulling that across just to see if I like that watery, glittery effect. I do, but I'm not sure how much of that will keep. So I'm gonna let it go for now. Okay, I really want to build that blue a little more. Blue, and do I make it a little purple too? Maybe I'll pull in some of this. See what this does for us. Okay, went over my sun a little much there, so I'm going to lift that. Okay, can always go back and mess with that more. Okay, now down here, it's where we've got the foam, the sea foam, kind of rolling in. So I'm gonna actually start going more wet and wet again as we get down into where the sky is really reflecting off of the shoreline. So we have the sun reflected about here, with the orange around it, and then it builds out to that purple again. But it does stay kind of darker down here. Should I, and it's a little greener. Okay, so let's do some blue, a little bit of green. Okay, I was being loose and maybe even a little sloppy. Whoops, I got blue and my yellow then. It's okay, I can lift it up. All right. I'm gonna come in this orange and red. And we are going to need more red. I said we're gonna do wet and wet, and I didn't even wet it. So let's just pull that across that way, and pull this across this way. All right, wet brush, come on. Getting some greens in there. Don't really want to get any greens in there. There we go. Okay. Don't mind the greens in the middle, because we will get some greens where the yellow light reflects onto that water coming in. I'm gonna switch some around so I can drop in easier on my round brush. Trying to get a good purple over here on my palette by mixing that blue and cadmium red, a little bit of orange to make it not quite so. Okay, I'm gonna come in with my brush and circle up that sun just a little. Some reflection, I should say. So the reflection's not quite as white and crisp as the actual sun up there. I'm actually doing a little more red right around the edge of it. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's fine for that layer. So Something over here is not exactly right. Let's build up this blue. It's kind of in shadow because there is a cloud above it. That's making it a little more shadowy. So I'm actually going to go ahead and start coming in to make those clouds. They are hovering. I'm just going to dot in these clouds. I do want to keep some of that white spot in there. Got a little bit of pink in them too, so we can and they're almost flat on the bottom. Build in some more blue in that. Okay, let's soften that up so it bleeds right into that cloud up top. Okay, and we have just a few of those right across here. It's almost like we're just dripping in dirty water, really. Just a few there, and a few over here. Okay. Darken it up just a little. Okay. So I'm going to start right at the horizon line and work my way up to get these clouds. It almost reminds me of like doing a landscape with rocks or a mountain in the background. But I'm going to soften that as it's going towards the sun. We're going to use a clean brush to soften that a bit more. Clean brush. Let's pull that out so it blends a little better right in there. There we go. I'm scared I'm starting to overwork it, so I do want to lift some of this, get it a little whiter. Let's try use a paper towel, see if we can soak up some of that. There we go. Okay, so trick, use a paper towel to soak up some of that extra pigment. All right, but we want that reflected down here too. So what we do at the top, we need to make sure we reflect it in the bottom. So we're gonna come right around here. Okay. All right. And then back on this side as well. How are we looking? I don't know, kind of happy with how that's going there. I guess I could darken it up just a smidge. Just a smidge, right along the water line. Right along that break line, I'm not sure. Okay, so I've almost got like this like abstract effect going on. Got a little too much yellow right here. There is a yellow glare in the reference photo, but I want to soften that out just a bit there. Okay, it's a little more orange. Okay. And again, with this gray mix that I have going over here, we're gonna pull in just some texture, or I think I want to do this with a dry brush actually. So dry brush, pick up some of that. We're just gonna scrape it across. So if you layer, if your brush is pretty dry, I need to mix up some more color. Blue, a little bit of this purple. Okay. Brush is mostly dry, and just lay it flat against the paper so the side of the bristles are touching, and just move it across. Now my water's pretty dry, so this should work pretty well, and that dragging will kind of give us some more texture. I don't even know if that's probably a little too subtle for the camera to even be able to pick up. If I do it over here, can y'all see it? So just swiping back and forth with this side of my brush. And I'm gonna come in with a thirsty brush and lift with just clean water, damp brush. Lift some of this in here because I want to drop in a few little sneaks of orange reflecting down from the sun. So I need a little more white to work with. So I've wet it. Yes, there we go. Okay. So let's get some of that orange. Just ever so lightly. Just some hints of it. This one, that cat yellow. Okay, and I'm actually gonna soften that up some. Now we need some more texture down here. So I'm gonna hit it with a dryer again, and then we'll come in and add texture. All right, so we want to drop in some streaks of texture here. So how do I want to do this? The water is going this way. Let's just go for it. Let some maybe little bits of sea foam here and there that have washed up. Maybe there's some shells. Kind of. And I'm very lightly outlining this shore break line. Just so we get a little bit of that shadow under the foam. Okay, now with a clean brush, we're just gonna smooth out that line. Okay, and now it's very lightly, I'm gonna just kind of wiggle my brush while the tip of it just barely touches the paper. I'm gonna make some squiggly lines towards the shoreline, the break line, just to suggest that the water is heading back to sea a little bit. I don't want them too uniform. It does get wider in some places. So I'm kind of twisting my brush while I'm dragging it to get some of those squiggly lines. I don't know. And then I would just barely touch in here too. I got some hard lines there. I want to lift those a little bit, so wet my brush. Smooth out where those just kind of end there. This one's really quite a bit heavier than I anticipated. Let's lift those just a little. Okay. I don't know. What do we think? I really like this cloud over here. So without risking pulling my reference photo back up, without overworking it too much, I do want to bring just a little more attention to this side to balance out what's happening over here just a little. So I'm going to bring in some more of that purple right at the horizon line. Maybe some of this more bluish purple, yes. Right at the horizon line. And then with a clean brush, just smooth that up into that cloud just a little bit more. And I want to build this up too. This is a little too transparent. Too transparent. So let's just build that up a little more. We're just getting some layers of clouds going. Okay, clean the brush, just clean water, soften up that edge a bit. Okay. Lovely. I feel like we could get some more texture in the water again. So I am going to come back in heavy on the Prussian blue. I might even add just a touch of black. I don't normally add black, but I feel like we need to get that texture a little more. I'm gonna dampen it off. Again, flat side. Barely touching the page. I've also seen this done with, you could use a credit card. I don't think I have a card handy over here that I could, I'll try that in another video. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen it. Where you can use the edge of a credit card and scrape it across. Just trying to get some more of that shoreline texture. Oh, that way or this way? I'm trying to think which way I wanted my texture to go here. Let's go this way. Just really want the belly of that brush to barely scrape the page. Belly meaning the longer part, the kind of more rounded part. Okay. One last thing I want to try is to get some of this sea foam right in here. So I'm gonna come in with a wet flat brush and just thinly right along the short edge, wet it, and then lift it with a paper towel. Okay, so I wet it, and then let's just see if we can lift it up. Let's try that again. Find a clean part on a paper towel. There we go. And let's see if we can. Not really lifting too much out there. So we don't want to drag it across. We really just want to press into the papers. We don't want to damage the paper too much. We're a little too blue right there, so I'm just dropping in some of that purple so that we can come back in and soak it back up. But we still leave some of that pigment in there. Okay, y'all. I'm gonna call that done. My interpretation of Tivy Sunrise. Okay. Let's pull the tape off. See what I mean about this tape doesn't give me the exact clean edge that I'm looking for. So remember, when you're pulling your tape off, you don't want to pull it like exactly in the direction that it's going. Try to pull it at an angle, and that will help some to keep your paper from tearing so much. Oh, one more thing. I almost forgot. Okay, so I wanted to try a technique that I've seen some other artists do to get the sparkle on the water. And that is, I'm going to turn this around just so we can practice it on this little dot right here. I have this white Dr. P.H. Martin white, bleed proof white. I'll say it right in a second. I've heard some people refer to it as a gouache. I'm not sure if it's technically a gouache, which is an opaque watercolor, or my light's doing weird things, isn't it? Or if it's an ink. If anybody knows, comment, let me know. So I've got this gouache, which you've seen me use before if you've been here a minute. But with that dry brush effect again. So I put a little bit of the gouache into the lid, just a little bit of water with it. And again, with that dry brush effect like we did before, I'm gonna dab my brush on the paper towel and then drag it. Nope, not dry enough. This is why I practice first. There we go. Drag it across. Okay, so I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna load the full belly of it up all the way around because I don't want to re-wet my brush at all once I put it on my painting. Let's try it again on this. Nope, too wet. There we go. I'll make it go even flatter with it. Okay, let's try it. So I'm barely gonna touch my painting. Oh, I'm scared. Okay, whatever, it's just paint. We can do this. All right. Barely touching it with the side of the brush. I don't know. What do we think? I think I like it. Let's okay, I gotta make sure I wash that brush really well. Yeah, let's get a close up of it. Let's zoom you in a little bit. Can you see that? We got that white glimmer on the water.
Ooh, should I do it on the shore too? Should I do it like right in this section?
This is when I wish I had somebody in the studio with me to be like, yes, you should try that. Okay. No. Yes, no. Yes, no. I feel like, you know that part in The Grinch where he's like, do I go? Yes, no, yes, no. That's what I feel like. Internal battles here. Okay, I'm gonna leave it. Done. Okay. Cool. Thanks. See you next time.